Greetings! My name is Xiomaro, and I'm a nationally exhibited artist, published author, and workshop teacher. I have a photographic exhibit at Morristown National Historical Park's Jockey Hollow Visitor Center, which is on display from June 6th to July 31st, 2021. The photographs, which are pretty large, they measure 40 inches by about 27 inches, they depict the key features of Jockey Hollow, which is an important American Revolutionary War site, as it is where George Washington's troops were encamped during the winter of 1779 to 1780. And if you haven't seen it already, I also have a 3-part video series called The Art of Cell Phone Photography, where I present many tips on how to see like an artist to help improve your photography, whether you're using a smartphone, point and shoot, or a DSLR camera. Now, I'm presenting all these programs, including the video you're watching now, as Morristown National Historical Park's first virtual artist in residence. Virtual because I usually do these presentations in a live setting, but due to the pandemic, we decided to reach out to the public through these broadcasts. So for clarification, I'm not an employee or representative of the National Park Service, nor am I a historian. I'm an independent artist, and I get commissioned by the National Park Service to create photographic collections of their historical and environmental sites. So I'm here to talk about the images I've created for some of the parks I've worked with, and my commentary is completely personal, as someone who just loves art and who loves history, and somehow managed to find a way to merge the two together. In fact, I'm often asked, how did I bring these two elements together? Well, it really was by accident, because for the longest time, my focus was really just on being a musician. That's where my interest in the arts began. And perhaps even my interest to some degree on military things too. Here's me on acoustic guitar. Kind of ironic that when I was a musician, I had my hair short as opposed to now. That photo was from a show I did for the Army at Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn. And here I am again on electric guitar at a show for the troops at Webster Hall in New York City. That was during Fleet Week. And, you know, I love music. I'm interested in playing anything. I mean, here I'm on drums for a Martin Luther King Day event. And here I'm on percussion. This was at a big house party. And even, of all things, Irish penny whistle. This is at a Starbucks. So as you can see, I'm also willing to play really anywhere anyone was willing to listen, like even at this beauty salon in Connecticut. But it's very difficult to maintain collaborations with other musicians. And after recovering from cancer, I decided to leave music and try my hand at photography. With music, you often need a group of people. With photography, I could do it by myself. So if I want to stay up all night and get something done, get a collection completed, I can do that. I don't have to consult with anybody or be dependent on anybody else. And I had already been including little art exhibits at my gigs anyway. Often I made more money from selling the photographs than I did selling the CDs. So after a few years of just kind of wandering in photography, trying out different things, photographing models, doing portraits of family members, and just trying different things, trying to find my place in photography, I finally applied for and thankfully was selected to be an artist in residence at Weir Farm National Historic Site, which is Connecticut's first national park, and the homestead of Julian Alden Weir, who was a leading innovator of American Impressionist painting. And I got to live for a month in a historic cottage located in the park with access to a beautiful state-of-the-art studio, pretty much spanking brand new at the time. During this period, during this month, I created a photographic series of Weir Farm that caught some attention in the local media, and even caught the attention of Julian Alden Weir's grandson, who visited to see my work at the studio. Now, the park was undergoing the process of being restored to what it looked like during Weir's time. So they commissioned me over a period of years to artistically document that transformation. These images were widely exhibited throughout Connecticut, as well as in Washington, D.C., and even as far away as Utah. And that caught the attention of Sagamore Hill National Historic Site on Long Island, which was the home and summer White House of President Theodore Roosevelt, or Teddy Roosevelt, as he is affectionately known in the public. It was a once-in-a-lifetime situation where the mansion was actually being completely emptied out so that it could undergo repairs and refurbishment. So the park wanted to document what would become very rare views of the rooms without all of its furnishings. I was given complete access, and with the rooms mostly cleared, I was able to photograph aspects and features of the house that would have gone unnoticed, I think. For example, there's a door jamb going into the library, for example, and it has a small letter E that was crudely carved in by T.R.'s son, Archie, in an effort to get his sister Ethel in trouble. I just love that picture. On the third floor, there's also a very small closet under the eaves where Mrs. Roosevelt's luggage is stored. Now, this is not something you would see as part of the tour, so I was glad to crumple myself up into a little ball and squeeze inside and photograph these items. This approach that I took of zeroing in on details, that enabled me to reveal something that had never been noticed before by the staff at Sagamore Hill. My photographs of the North Room ended up revealing that the elaborate patterns of the wallpaper are of dual peacocks facing each other, and that had not been noticed in the past. So these unique photographs caught a lot of media attention and were also widely exhibited, including a display at Harvard University. In fact, T.R.'s great-grandson saw my photo of the master bedroom and asked that I take a photo after it was put back together and restored. And that photo was published on, both of these photos actually were published on the covers of the Theodore Roosevelt Association Journal. So those were my first two commissions. And from there, it has been a series of, one commission after another, on the East Coast, parks as far south as Florida and as far north as Massachusetts. When I do a live presentation, like pre-pandemic times, I go through photos created at these other parks, and I like taking questions from the audience about them too. Sometimes they'll ask me how I created the photo, or what equipment I use, or what it was like to be there. But unfortunately, time does not allow me to get into these other parks. But I'll show you some pictures from the William Floyd estate on Long Island, as it has a direct connection with George Washington. William Floyd was a general in the Revolutionary War who served under Washington, and unfortunately a lot of information about him has been lost to history. The British took over this house and they destroyed a lot of his personal effects, so there's not a lot of artifacts or information to go on. But he is one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Now, knowing this, I made sure to photograph his signature that appears in one of the books that's held at the house. And as far as I know, this is the only other image of his signature that you will see apart from the Declaration of Independence itself. The book is not, in fact, the book's not even typically on public view. They brought it out for me because I requested it, because I wanted to photograph that. We do know, however, that James Madison and also Thomas Jefferson, both of whom went on to become presidents of the United States, they used to frequent the house. And here, too, I liked uncovering things that a visitor is not going to see on a tour. One such location was the attic. I just enjoyed the creepy vibe of the space. And another location was the room where they kept the coal, which at that point had not been opened in probably about 20 years. Inside, I saw that one of Floyd's descendants in the late 1800s painted a scene that to me looked like it might be of the New York City skyline at the time. But anyway, as you can see, by visiting these national parks, the connections between them come to life. The parks can give you a better sense of what life was like in a moment of history. And in a way, I think that it makes it more compelling and perhaps even more visceral than when you're reading about history in a book. So, for example, you can enter General William Floyd's mansion, walk into his dining room, and get a sense of the luxury he lived in as a wealthy plantation owner. And as you'll see in my exhibit at Jockey Hollow, there was also a relative luxury in the Ford Mansion, which served as General Washington's headquarters. But if you were Henry Wick, the farmer that owned Jockey Hollow, you'll see that his house was much smaller and plain-looking. Officers in Washington's army, on the other hand, they lived in a duplex cabin, like the one you see here. It's a replica that's been put together there at Jockey Hollow. And if you were a member of the rank and file, well, your accommodations were a lot simpler and smaller. These huts, as they called them, measured about 14 feet wide and 15 to 16 feet long, with a height of about 6.5 feet at the eaves. And up to 12 soldiers would share such a cabin to endure what would become a very long, harsh, brutal winter. So there you have it. And to come full circle, just prior to photographing Jockey Hollow, my work with Weir Farm, which had been completed 3 years earlier, became the subject of a book I authored for Arcadia Publishing. The book, appropriately titled Weir Farm National Historic Site, was released internationally in 2019. In fact, it's the first book that tells the story of how Weir Farm was rescued from becoming a residential development and preserved as a national park site. And as a result, Senator Joe Lieberman, who introduced the legislation to establish Weir Farm as a park, was kind enough to contribute the foreword to my book. Today, the park has undergone a name change that recognizes the wide range of cultural, historical, and recreational resources that it offers to the public. It is now known as Weir Farm National Historical Park. And by the way, can you guess what was America's very first National Historical Park? Time's up. The answer is Morristown National Historical Park, back in 1933. So when the pandemic is over and we can have cocktail parties again, now you'll have some trivia you can impress people with. If you're watching this video on a platform where you can comment or share or like it, please do so. We would love to get some feedback from you. So please do that. I want to thank you very much for checking out my work and for listening to this video and watching it. And on behalf of Morristown National Historical Park, I'm Xiomaro, and we invite you and your friends to check out the park. You can visit them at their website and get more information about what's coming up. Do check out the Jockey Hollow photo exhibit that I have, and also check out the videos that I did on the art of cell phone photography. If you want to see examples of work that I've done at other parks, or if you just want to learn more about me and my work, and also my connection to Morristown, visit my website, which is www.Xiomaro.com, and that's X, not an S, but X, I-O-M, like Mary, A-R-O.com.